Hello, my name is Dr. Ryan K. Louie, and I'm a board-certified psychiatrist. And today I will be talking about cybersecurity, mental health and cybersecurity. I want to express my thanks to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory for this opportunity to participate in this 2020 Cybersecurity Virtual Expo. Today we'll talk about mental health, cybersecurity in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and the sudden and widespread changes that this has brought on every part of daily life. Mental health and cybersecurity are very important aspects of all parts of our lives, and by understanding how the two work together and interface with each other, we can hopefully build a stronger sense of meaning and of purpose moving forward to take care of ourselves and each other and to be more resilient. So we'll have a chance to talk about various topics in this discussion. So let's get started. I sometimes like to start out by asking Dr. Google, what does mental health look like to Google? And Google tells us that there are these search terms for mental health as well as these types of images. In the image panel here, we see images of the mind, the brain, various labels that are within our minds and in our heads, and has these types of images and descriptors. If we do the same type of searching for the word cyber attack, Google tells us that cyber attacks looks like this in terms of the images that it brings up. We see dark images, people in hoods, typing on keyboards, computer code, and even some pictures about infrastructure, such as the electrical networks and finances. So certainly cybersecurity and cyber attacks affect all parts of life, and this is somewhat captured in these types of pictures. This is what Google thinks about and shows us when we ask about mental health and cyber attack. But it shows one aspect of the images that people think of when we hear about these terms. But as we'll talk about in this discussion today, there's often a deeper inner type of meaning and implication about mental health and cybersecurity that is very fundamental to every one of us. The FBI comes out with an annual report each year from the IC3, which is the Internet Crime Complaints Center. And in this table here, it shows the 2019 crime statistics in terms of financial loss, according to victim loss of various types of cyber crimes. As you see in this chart here, the numbers are staggering. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars and even in the billion-dollar range. So these are very serious types of crimes, and that infects a big part of the financial system and of the economy. But when I look at this chart, I oftentimes wonder, what is the mental health cost behind all this? As you might imagine, that behind each of these cyber crimes and of the numbers that we see on the chart, it doesn't capture and describe the mental stress, the impact psychologically and psychiatrically on victims. And that is something that we should always keep in mind when we hear about these and see these kind of numbers. And it is part of this discussion that hopefully we could bring everyone to join this conversation to see how we might be able to understand this more. The COVID-19 pandemic, as everyone knows, has affected every part of daily life. And this includes, of course, fundamentally health, but it also affects the way everyone works. For the people who are able to work at home, that it shifted the boundaries of work and of family and of personal lives and of all different dimensions of daily life all together as one. And this happened very suddenly, oftentimes with policies that were ongoing, that were not entirely clear at the beginning, and even sometimes even now in terms of how things might unfold and what was happening. And so it was a very stressful and continues to be a very stressful type of time period. And so in this slide here, I talk about and mention a couple topics of how COVID-19 is impacting daily life. The boundaries between work and personal life are blurred. There's stress related to information and the news. Obviously, there's a big impact on the economy and the finances and of people's health, and also of security and sense of well-being for people. And there are many, many other dimensions of COVID-19 pandemic, of the COVID-19 pandemic that are affecting our lives that we know of right now, and even some that we may not be aware of yet, but that we would find out in the future as we learn more about this pandemic. Actors with bad intentions have been shown to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic through frauds, scams, malware, cyber attacks. And each of these dimensions of daily life that I described here have been impacted by cyber attackers who are trying to exploit the various issues and elements of daily life that are being impacted by COVID-19, and they are taking advantage of this dimension as part of their technological attack in their cyber attacks. So I think this represents a mental health attack surface where the cyber attacker is exploiting some element of a person's mental health as part of their strategy to achieve their means in their cyber attack. And so in each of these dimensions of daily life, we see that there are opportunities and ways that a cyber attacker can infiltrate and manipulate these dimensions to achieve their means. When someone clicks on a potentially harmful link, we sometimes ask, how does that happen? And why does that occur? Much has been done in this area in terms of research and of studies of behavior and of thinking and of social engineering, as well as the cybersecurity aspects of in terms of the various methods that attackers use, such as phishing or manipulation or impersonation. So there is certainly a lot of social engineering that's going on here. But I think also that from a psychiatrist's point of view, that cyber attackers are actually exploiting the thoughts and feelings and behaviors of victims using what I call psychiatric engineering. It's the exploitation of a clinical condition or a mental health state or of psychiatry to accompany and to help them achieve their means in their technological exploits of a cyber attack. So in this slide here, I listed various emotions and thoughts and feelings and behaviors of people that are very common, but which serve as potentially harmful entry points where cyber attackers can exploit. So we see things like stress, there's a lot of confusion, there's risk, there's uncertainty, things seem very urgent, people are scared, it's fearful, people might have various different kind of feelings, like feelings of sadness or of anxiety, and people might feel overwhelmed. So many different things going on that I listed here. Also noted are things that are seen as negative in nature, but also positive attributes as well, such as happiness, charity, love, and kindness. These can also be exploited by cyber attackers as part of their social engineering and psychiatric engineering exploits. So put together, all of these are involved in this rather complex event in terms of a person potentially clicking a harmful link. And this is just one example of how the mental health aspect can come into the field of cybersecurity and of cyber attacks. Throughout history of humans, human beings have had the survival and security elements built into their DNA. And this comes in various parts that I describe here, We have things such as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where the ideas of safety and security are more or less one of the fundamental units of this pyramid and that are necessary for human beings before they can build up to higher aspirations of life. We have the fight or flight responses in terms of survival and in terms of what human beings should do in order to survive and to make split-second decisions in terms of gut reactions and what to do in order to be well and stay safe. And also, human beings have the ability to think of new ideas and to be creative and innovative and imaginative. And along with this is the creation of technologies and new ways of doing things to help them improve their chances of survival and to stay safe. So all of these things are all within the human mind and are the product of the human mind. But as we will see with this technology that's created, as technology becomes more and more interwoven into the lives of human beings, that it becomes a very intricate relationship between the two. And that brings us to the slide here, that when technology and the lives of people come together, that it becomes blurred in terms of divisions that were used to be thought of as two separate things, but now they are the same. The security of people and the security of technology becomes one and the same in this increasingly digital and technological world. So from my profession of psychiatry, I see it as psychiatry being combined with cybersecurity, leading to a field of cybersecurity. As I started thinking about this topic, I was reflecting back on my own field of psychiatry and in the medical field. And there are often parallels between the different fields of cybersecurity and of the world of medicine. Both of these fields involve highly stressful work environments, and they're constantly changing. There's always new information, new things happening. And oftentimes we are made to make decisions on with information that might be unknown or incomplete or that have uncertainty to them. Both of our professions have information that cannot be shared with others, and so there's a closed network of information related to these two fields. Both professions must keep up always with new and complex types of knowledge, and to always stay alert. There's pressure from limited time and resources, and often with human relationships in teams, there is also the role of team dynamics. So these are all different types of elements that are in the medical field and also the cybersecurity profession, and these can be sources of ongoing stress, especially in times of crises. In terms of mental health stress and cybersecurity, challenges to the profession of cybersecurity include things such as high expectations as cybersecurity first responders, cyber defenders. They're on the front lines, and there's always the expectation to take care of any kind of security concerns. And when there is no news, that is good news for them. But when something shows up on the news, then that becomes a very, very big issue that impacts everyone. And so the expectations and the stakes are very high in this type of profession. I've heard that words of thanks are often rare, and when things are going well and nothing happens and there's no news, then that's a good thing. But the opposite occurs when there are incidences that happen. And when they do happen, when things are missed, there's feelings of tremendous guilt. Oftentimes, I've heard that in the cybersecurity field, people who work in this profession have a badge of honor to always take on more and more responsibilities, and they are always constantly looking for holes and filling them. So they're constantly, nonstop, looking at ways of how they could improve the field and get their daily work done. There's also direct impact on individuals in cybersecurity. What I've heard from professionals in the cybersecurity field is that oftentimes it's very difficult to turn off when they leave the office and go back home. There's that distinction between what is their work life and what is their personal life. It was very difficult to switch on and switch off. And oftentimes this suggests the level of dedication that a person really wants to put into their work and their mission to find the best way and the best solution to solve a problem. But at the same time, this allows people to creep into personal time that might be impacting the way in which they should be living their lives in terms of relaxation and time for themselves to recharge after a very stressful day at work. This happens even more so right now as people more and more are working from home, and at which point their workspace is their home. And so where does one start and stop work? Oftentimes it's very difficult to be able to set these types of boundaries. In cybersecurity, oftentimes there's limited social support, both related to the industry and the type of work and the nature of the information that they handle. And oftentimes they cannot just go out and seek help from friends and talk about their problems. This is even exacerbated even more so with people working from home because of this social isolation and the individual nature of a person working oftentimes by themselves in their own home, away from their colleagues at the office, for example. Their boundaries are difficult to set and often not clear. And all throughout this type of situation, whether it's pre-COVID or during this pandemic, that there are work expectations and team dynamics that evolve and also change throughout time and could be very stressful as well. So what we see so far is that there is tension from all different directions, coming from the outside, from the inside, and this has a direct impact on what people are feeling inside themselves. Oftentimes, what people describe from the outside may be quite different from what they feel on the inside. And this is all part of the mental health aspect of cybersecurity and the dimension of the human element. I'd like to turn the page and look at how we test for stress in various types of things in nature. In this one slide here, we talk about how stress is measured in materials. And in this diagram here, back in the days of my physics class in high school and college, we looked at how various types of materials can be stretched and pulled to test their strength and their strain and their stress. So in this example here, we have this piece of material shown in blue, and what it does is it pulls, and there's like measurements of it, and they generate a curve that's shown on the right side here, where there's various points along this pulling curve that talk about how the material responds to stress. And so as we look at this one section here, we see that there is a linear section that goes from here to there, from this origin to the point A, where you stretch a material and it stretches, but then if you let go, it kind of goes back to its original shape. They get back to where they started. If we go from A to B and progress a little bit more, we still stretch out and we can still get back to where we were before, but we might not be able to get back to exactly how we were, and it just kind of stretches out a little bit. But in general, we can still recover. Going from B to C, however, starts to have a different picture. Going from B to C, it shows that the material is stretched to a point where it cannot get back to its original state. They're not stretched out so much that it breaks, but it's definitely something different. Certainly, as this goes on more and more, going from the point of C to D, the material starts to get deformed more and more with more and more stress, and to the point where there's a breaking stress. And in the case of point E, there's no more leeway. The material fractures. But that's the stress strain curve for materials, for example. But what about for humans? This is difficult because it's challenging because mental stress is often, it's hard to measure. It's oftentimes invisible and it means different things for different people. And the whole issue about mental health and mental illness and stress is oftentimes stigmatized in our society at this current time. But we do have certain measures and certain things that we can think about in terms of stress, and one of them is from the Yerkes Dodson curve, as shown here. This shows a curve where it describes different types of stress and its impact on performance. We see that on the left side of the curve that there is a level of stress that is low and people feel calm, but at the same time, in terms of how it affects people's performance, well, they can handle it, but it's kind of boring. And then when they get to the middle part, it's called eustress. It's right at the middle. And sometimes people describe it as it feels just right. This is the flow. This is where people are meant to be, and it feels rewarding. It's stressful, but yet they have the performance, and they feel that they are achieving things. When stress becomes increased after that, it becomes more and more stress where the performance actually starts to decrease and people start to feel overwhelmed. They feel fatigued, tired, burned out, and so forth. So there's different types of stresses related to different types of performance depending on the nature of the situation. In terms of burnout, here's a description of what burnout can be like. And oftentimes I describe it as a battery that's running low. You've got one more bar, it's flashing red. The cell phone dims in intensity of the light. Only certain functions are available, and other functions that are non-essential for the phone are shut off so that you can make the critical things that you need to do, such as maybe sending a message or talking on the phone and things of that nature. Burnout for people is very similar. Oftentimes it's described as draining, as being depleted. So as we talk about the various aspects here, we have emotional depletion. It's the idea that everything has been taken out of a person in terms of their excitement and their feelings towards the work or the thing that they do. Oftentimes people describe burnout as feeling detached and being cynical about a certain thing or their work. They oftentimes might make some jokes about certain problems and use humor, but behind all of this shows a deeper type of issue that might be going on in terms of a person's feeling about how they are doing in relation to their situation. People experiencing burnout often sometimes described as low personal achievement in terms of what they wanted to do. They felt that they were initially very excited about this type of work and were really looking forward to doing the type of work and working with their colleagues and working on projects. But somehow that was lost and they feel that they have plateaued or maybe even gone downwards. People sometimes often describe it as depersonalization. They sometimes look at themselves as if they were an exhibit at a museum, and sometimes they may not even come to the realization or feeling that this is actually them, that it's happening as a third person. So this happens as well. These are all certain elements of burnout. And although burnout is not an official psychiatric diagnosis according to the DSM-5 manual in psychiatry, but a lot of people, including myself, think that burnout is on the way towards other types of clinical psychiatric illnesses, including depression. So by looking out by these early signs, we can be more aware and more understanding about what might be going on before things get more serious. Mental health issues in cybersecurity are wide and varied, and they also reflect the idea that everyone in cybersecurity is a human being. So the things that are shown in this chart here are also found in the general population. But I believe that in cybersecurity, that the mental health issues are intensified and can even be possibly more increased in terms of what is happening and their intensity depending on the situation and the person involved compared to the general type of population. And this might include things like depression and feelings of anxiety and even PTSD type of symptoms. There's a general description that I've heard that oftentimes people cannot unsee the things that they have seen or unhear the things that they have heard as part of their profession. And because of the nature of their work, they cannot share this, and it is all kept within their mind. And this can be tremendously stressful, can lead to burnout and to other types of issues as well. There can also be some delusions and some alterations in thinking, and maybe even some paranoia and hypervigilance. There also can be increased personality types of traits that are impacted, and substance use, including alcohol and other types of substances, can also increase in intensity in cybersecurity type of professions. And these are some of the issues that are happening in the cybersecurity profession, but there can be also other issues as well. And these mental health issues can impact both first responders and victims of cybercrime. And oftentimes this can be the same person. So in thinking about all of this, we could take a moment to kind of step back and try this exercise to help find one way to help organize the world and about what's going on at this moment. So at this point, I want everyone to just kind of take a moment to ask yourself, what does your kitchen tray look like? Maybe it's in one of the drawers in your kitchen where you keep all the utensils. Take a moment to think about what that looks like. Ask yourself, what does it contain? When was the last time that you thought about your kitchen tray before I asked you here in this video? Do you know how many pieces of each utensil are in each tray and what it looks like? Is it full? Is it empty? Is it organized? Or is it in disarray? Here's my kitchen tray, and it's a smaller one, and I brought an actual sample here of the same tray here with me. And as I hold this kitchen tray, I like to use this as an example because it represents something that is oftentimes very central to everyone's life in terms of meal times. So let's say breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's oftentimes spent with family and friends and a gathering place. And it's often a place and a time for conversation. So it's something that's so important as part of our daily lives, but we oftentimes don't think about it. And it serves a very essential role of, let's say, for example, organizing the things that allow us to do the things that we enjoy. So utensils such as spoons and forks and knives. Everyone is different, and every element is important for helping us do the things that we enjoy, which is enjoying a good meal with possibly our friends and family, or even if it's just by ourselves, to be able to do the things we want to do. So with this kind of kitchen tray, we can use this example as what I describe as the mental tray, T-R-A-Y, to help you manage stress. The T stands for triage. We should always have a way to put all the things that are coming into our mind. So if I put this on my head, they're all coming into our mind here to help them be organized. Is this a fork? Is this a knife? Is this a spoon? You know, is the spoon compartment already overfilled? Do I need more help? Am I going to call in someone else to help me with this? We need to be able to understand what the nature of every element is as it appears, and not just have a non-system to catch whichever thing might be falling on us. We have to have a system to be able to sort it out. So that's the triage. The R is for reflection. Oftentimes reflection is done at the end of something, but in this T-R-A-Y tray example, I put it up at the beginning because we should always start to think about what something means for us as best as we can, even in the early stages of an incident or an event. Even if we don't have all the information and all the parts yet, we should always start to reflect, always reflect and check in to see what does this mean for ourselves? How is this going to affect the people that are involved? How does this affect the organization and the bigger picture of things? Always keep that in mind. And with those things in constant circulation, we select an action, we act. We collaborate with the other people on our team and check in with the people working with us and check in with ourselves in terms of what to do, and we react. And finally, the Y I put as you, because I want to put you as front and center, because in mental health and in cybersecurity and to respond to cyber threats, you are important. You are the most important part of the investment and of the ability to manage and to address these cyber threats. And it's the idea that by taking care of yourself as a human being, you are able to take care of your own well-being, your own health for your own personal life, but also to make sure that you are in the best performance and optimum condition that you can be, so that you can be of service to other people, and that includes your team. So I always put you, and I put a circle all around that, because you should always be included as the TRAY. So that is the TRAY mental trait to help you manage stress. Something you don't have to carry around a physical trait, but something that you could always keep in your mind, have an insight, and not necessarily need to tell anyone that you're having a kitchen tray in your mind, but you have it there because that is your tool to keep with you. This mental TRAY, the trait, helps you with your thoughts and your feelings and your behavior. And people who are familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy might be familiar with this cycle of the way of people thinking, leading to people's emotions and feelings, and leading to an action of a behavior, which then turn back into thoughts. This cycle can be a downward spiral if thought in a negative way, or it can be done in a positive way with an upward spiral of improvement. I bring this here to show that the kitchen tray is here to help you with sorting out these thoughts and feelings and behaviors so you can get in the right direction. So creating your own pathway forward, you got to recharge. There's many different ways to do this, and certainly certain things work for some people better, and everyone has their own style of doing things, and there's a lot of things written about this. So the most important thing is find something that you feel comfortable with, and that you can feel that you can do, and that you feel can be helpful for you. And that's the best way, because over time, little habits build up into bigger routines and bigger results over time. So pick something that you feel comfortable with. But just as starters, I pointed out a couple points that can be helpful. You should dedicate time for yourself. And that's especially important right now during this pandemic of COVID-19. You have to set your time for fun, for hobbies, things that are not related to work, hanging out with people that you enjoy, and block out that time in your calendar. Actually put it into your calendar and say, hey, this is your time there. Take moments of time for self-reflection. So maybe it's taking a walk, doing journaling, doing mindfulness, or other techniques to help yourself relax and to get in touch with yourself again. It's always important to have a network of people that you trust, and continue to keep an open communication with them, and to look out for one another. Everyone has someone in their lives that they can go to, whether it's for some advice, or just to talk, or just to get a listening ear. And likewise, you can serve as that person for other people as well. Looking out for each other is how we build a foundation for a support network that helps us get through difficult times. We should learn about mental health, and to continue to understand the various issues of mental health related to the general population, also to cybersecurity professionals specific to the industry. And it's always important to reach out to your health providers, to your physicians, to your doctors, and to everyone involved in mental health care, and to get help and care when you need to. And do not hesitate to get that. Even in times of COVID-19, there are techniques to get help, and there's always ways to get help with health professionals, whether it's through virtual visits or in clinic or actual on-site type of visits. But the most important thing is just reach out and get connected with people. From a bigger picture, we should hope to drive cultural change by really putting mental health as a priority. And oftentimes that leadership is shown by people at all levels of an organization that show that mental health is important for them. And they do it by showing through their actions and their words, and of what they show is being valued and being measured and being valued by their organization. We should always look out for people from various backgrounds and various fields so that we can all come together and learn about mental health and cybersecurity from each other. And that's one of the things that I was very happy about participating in this event with the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories at this virtual expo in cybersecurity. And so to be able to continue that conversation and think about the different ways of what this might mean for all of us to build a way forward. So we go back to that chart about the materials and say that, hey, this is where we want to be. We want to be in that blue zone. We want to be resilient. We want to be in a position where we cannot prevent and avoid all the stretches and the stress of life and what's going on. But maybe what we want to do is to have a system in place and a support network in place so that when stressful and very challenging and difficult times come, that you have a method and a way forward to be able to address it and to hopefully get back to a more normal shape and condition with their assistance when these types of things occur. So I'd like to say that cybersecurity starts with security in mind, and whether it's a kitchen tray or with anything else that works for you, find a system and make sure that you always have to take care of your mind because you are important and your mental health is important. And with that, you will be able to live a more fulfilling life personally and also continue to do well in the cybersecurity field that you're so very passionate about and to keep everyone safe. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out if there's any questions or any ideas or suggestions. I enjoy interacting with the community on Twitter, so you can find me there at Ryan Lee. And I also have a website, cybersecurity.clinic, where I just posted up some basic information and some of the materials that I've put together and made some videos about the topic of cybersecurity, so you can check that out there. So with that, I want to say thank you very much to everyone for this opportunity to talk with you about cybersecurity. And I again want to express my thanks to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory for this opportunity to participate in this 2020 Cybersecurity Virtual Expo. Please take care, everyone. Continue to be well and take care of yourselves and of each other.